Welcome to the Sisters in Service podcast. My name is Kat Gorchado. I'm a fellow Air Force veteran who, after 20 years of active duty, struggled with transition after leaving service. The Sisters in Service podcast is a platform to include all women veterans, organizations, military spouses, and Blue Star, Gold Star families in talking about the trials and triumphs we face while in service and after service. I want to take a moment to thank all of you who have taken the time to listen and follow me on my journey. My podcast is every Tuesday, and I hope you will tune in. Until then, please be safe, take care of each other, and until next time. Welcome to another episode of Sisters in Service. I am, of course, your host, Kat Gorchado. Today, we are speaking with Elisa Escalante, and I'm going to let her explain a little bit about what she does, but we're going to speak about her book in particular. So, Elisa, welcome to Sisters in Service. So nice to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Course. So as you guys know, I'm on Clubhouse a lot, and that's where I heard Elisa speak about her book, which we will get into a little bit later. But she is, of course, a veteran. And yes, she's an Air Force veteran. Yay. So we never get that applause, Elisa. I don't know why, but anyway.
We know why.
Yeah, we do. And I noticed that you went into the military right after high school. So my
Correct.
question is, there are two types of people: those that kind of mill around after high school and say, okay, crap, I'll just go in the military. And those that say they get their graduation certificate and they go right to where the recruiters are and say, I'm signing up. So you were obviously the latter. What was it that made you did you know, okay, let me put it this way. Did you know that that's what you wanted to do after leaving high school?
Yes. Actually, I knew since the 8th grade that the Air Force is what I wanted to do.
Really?
My father was a Marine for 20 years, and he talked a lot about the military, and he highly encouraged Air Force for me.
See, I find that funny.
Highly encouraged it. Yes. So I did the delayed enlistment program actually by my junior year of high school. So my date was already set up before my high school graduation. And it ended up being 12 days after high school graduation that I was in boot camp.
Girl, you had to graduate and then party and then pack pretty much, right?
No partying. My parents had me, they had me do a few last minute chores around the house, and then I was just off.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what did you do in the military? I think you did mental health technician, correct?
Yes.
So did you go in under general, or did you say, no, that's what I want to do right there?
I took a risk and I went in open general just to get the quick date right out of high school. But I did ask for mental health when I was in boot camp, and I did what the recruiter advised me to do and showed them some certificates to help me get that job. And luckily it worked out.
Yeah, girl, because you go under risky. Open general, they'd be like, oh, we know what job she's getting.
Yeah,
all the stuff that nobody else wants to do.
No, yeah.
So that seems like racing. It's kind of in alignment with, when I was reading your bio about everything you wanted to do. But I also noticed that you became what's called a readjustment counselor. What is that?
Correct. So basically, a lot of people have heard of vet centers, right? So technically vet centers, there were VA employees. So I was hired by the VA, but vet centers, you can think of them kind of like small detached mental health clinics separate from the VA hospitals. So the therapists that work at vet centers are called readjustment counselors. And the key difference is the eligibility for vet centers is strictly combat veteran or those that have suffered from military sexual trauma. Very heavy trauma caseloads at vet centers.
Right. So let me go back to your Marine dad. Was he the typical Marine. You know what I mean? You see them on TV and you're like, oh, they're just scary and they speak loud. And, was he like that or was he just a big old softy? I mean, not in the Marine way, but just in the person way. You know what I mean?
He's not, I wouldn't say loud, more like the stoic, strong, silent type. And, if he is upset though, you'll know it. But
Oh,
he's
okay.
usually very stoic, quiet. And when he does talk, it's usually some type of inappropriate humor. So yes, a lot of Marine qualities.
See, my dad was Air Force, and I always knew when my dad was mad because his voice would get lower and lower
Right?
and lower. And you're like, oh, holy crap, I am in trouble now.
No,
So
yeah.
you were at Dyess Air Force Base. Did you do your whole tour there?
Yes. So the 6 years I was active duty was all, I mean, obviously after boot camp and tech school, I did what they call the LSD tour. So Lackland for boot camp, Shepherd for tech school, Dyess
I went
for
to
my permanent duty
Shepherd for
station.
tech school. Oh my
Yes,
God.
yes, yes.
Anybody who knows Shepherd Air Force Base, you're right in the middle of what they call Tornado Alley. Okay.
Yep.
There's nothing there. Tornadoes just, they have like, they have get-togethers there. Oh, let's go here. And there'll be 5 tornadoes that meet up in Shepherd Air Force Base.
I'm so lucky there was no tornadoes when I was stationed there because
Yeah.
I'm terrified of them. But yeah, I did the LSD tour, and Dyess was where I was at my whole active duty career. So besides my deployment to Afghanistan in 2012, Dyess is where I was at.
Right. So you were deployed to Afghanistan, correct?
Yes.
And what did you do while you were there? Were you in alignment with the job that you had stateside?
Yes. Yeah. The only difference is they call us combat stress techs when we're on the deployment versus mental health tech. But yeah, I was at a FOB and working at a combat stress clinic with a team of 6, a psychiatrist, 2 social workers, and me and 2 other mental health technicians.
So what did you see that was different in Afghanistan than what you saw at Dyess? What kind did you see some of the same things? Or was it on a higher level? Was it different? Yes, I know it was different. You were in Afghanistan, but what you
Yeah,
saw, as far as what people were suffering from, was it just on a different level in Afghanistan versus at Dyess?
absolutely. Because at Dyess, it's like we're seeing people right before they get to, go on their deployment, right after they come back home. And, that's serious. But there's something about seeing someone within 24 to 48 hours after a combat trauma that's a lot more raw and emotional for sure.
I bet.
It's like you can see it more in their eyes and in their mannerisms. So that was a little bit jarring. And the other thing is more homicidal ideation on a deployment versus stateside. A lot more anger and rage, for very obvious reasons.
Of course, yes. Wow. And that must be hard to see as, because you go from Dyess Air Force Base, where things are, you have your job, then you go to Afghanistan and see something that on a totally different level that sometimes, I mean, were you prepared for that?
I was I was in for about 4 years before I deployed. So at least there was that. With mental health, at least they don't let us deploy until we're a 5 level.
Oh,
So we
gotcha.
have to have a lot of training before they let us deploy, at least in the mental health world. And I think that's a good thing. Um, so I had already interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people before I deployed, but it still felt very like, wow, this is the real deal. Like this, it felt kind of like this is what I was training for, what I was working for. And it's about to be in combat specifically. And I was definitely very nervous. I felt prepared, but I also felt nervous, just not knowing what to expect. And every now and then there's that hopeless feeling because you're talking to people and they're feeling helpless and hopeless. And it's like, there's only so much that you can say and do for someone that is in a combat deployment and is going, they're going outside the wire. They're being exposed to dangerous things all the time. And it's, it's really difficult. It's like on a higher level, I would say.
I can't even imagine that. So I got out before there were any deployments. Well, not that I got out. I did my 20 years. It was time to go. But I also can't imagine what it's like to be over there helping other people, which you did, but also at the same time having your head on a swivel. Like you can't ever relax the whole time you're there. There's no, let me put my feet up, have a beer or a drink and watch some TV. It's not like that, So my idea or my imagination is just, it goes wild when I think of getting deployed and going over there and then coming back. And those poor people that not only deployed once, but deployed several times. They would go over there, they come home, they go back, they come home, and they go back again. They just, my hat's off to them, because that just seems very, very difficult in so many ways just to do that. It would seem to me too that the people who are over there helping them, such as yourself, would also need some help when they come back, because they need to like decompress. So what did you do coming back to help you, if anything?
I did all the wrong things, I would say. And there's a issue, as many know, in like the mental health world and also the medical world, where we're in that role of being the caregiver and the nurturer so much that we don't really know how to admit when we're struggling. So because of having that kind of job, instead of taking our own advice, sometimes we do the opposite and we play strong because we feel like we need to be strong for them. Right. If I'm out of my mission, how do I help those, that I need to help? So, unfortunately, like I said, I did not seek help. But also at the same time, I did not know that I really needed it. A lot of, numbing, intellectualization, and, minimizing my own issues. Also the fear that, I knew just being in that world, what kind of diagnosis I might have and what diagnosis could get me removed from the military. I really played like I was
everything
a good
was
actress.
Fine. Yeah.
I was a good actress. I didn't actually get therapy until after the military, when I was in college at 27. So that was just 4 years ago. Yeah. And, everything just kind of built up. And it was when I became a therapist when I really started to feel those symptoms.
But I think it's also difficult and I don't know what it's like for the men, but for women, we feel like, look, I did this time in the military. I'm strong. I can handle this. And you can, but sometimes you need help. And that's okay. And you keep hearing, these phrases, it's okay to not be okay, because we're not okay 100% of the time. We're just not. But I find that even for myself, it was hard for me to say, I just need a day where I don't do anything. I'm not thinking, I'm not figuring stuff out. My brain just gets a chance to just rest, and that in itself, I think is what I call my mental health day, which is Sundays. Yes. I do nothing on Sundays, absolutely nothing. And it's been helping a lot. So I think it's important for people to understand that it's okay to need help, depending on what kind of help you need, but to be able to speak up and say, yes, I need help with this is, I think, very huge for everybody. I don't care if we're speaking specifically about veterans, but, veterans, but also anyone in law enforcement, anyone in the medical field right now who are working emergency rooms with COVID right now, they're all of those people, firefighters, they all need that time to say, I need some time off. I need a day. Yeah. I need a little bit of corner, a little space here. So I'm glad that you were able to recognize it, and sometimes people, if I had just done it a year ago, well, you're doing it now, and that's what counts. Let's talk about your book. So, yes, audience, she is also an author of the book Unseen: Uncovering the Invisible Wounds of Military Trauma. So, tell us, first of all, I've never been prompted to write a book. You say you should write a book. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of work. What prompted you to, when did that idea start?
Oh, the idea of this book specifically started at some point when I was a therapist. But like I say to a lot of people, the motivation really started after the deployment, but it became like an increasing motivation after I got out. And one thing I've been writing since I was like 6 years old, but it's, was always, off and on. I had done a lot of projects where I got halfway in and I decided, no, I don't like this. But when I came up with the idea of this one, it felt like something that was publishing worthy. Like for the first time in my life, I felt like this could be something that could go all the way. And it felt important and special to me. My idea was I'm going to be about 75% veteran in this book and about 25% clinician. And I wanted something, obviously military trauma related, moral injury related in the book, but I wanted something that was very different than what's already on the market, something digestible, relatable, something that anyone can read, non-threatening, and just
not
different.
have to look up the words as they're going along.
Yeah.
Me. I'm like, I don't know what that word is. Let me look it up.
Yeah. I decided no, what they call psychobabble. I was like, no psychobabble in my book, because there's already so much literature on post-traumatic stress disorder, what it means, the symptoms, the diagnostics. So this for me was more about, let's make this real, raw, relatable. And hopefully when someone is done reading this, if they're not in therapy and they need it, it could be that little push, to convince them that, hey, maybe therapy is the way to go, or maybe even just this book is helpful,
Right.
Just reading it and seeing that they're not odd or quote unquote crazy, that this is something that happens to veterans that have been highly traumatized from their career. And it's just validating.
Right.
Hopefully it's validating.
Is it a story? Is it case studies? Is it just speaking about those things that happen, that saying, hey, does this happen to you? Do you ever feel like this? It could be here. It could be PTSD. It could be this. So is it something like that?
Yeah. So there are trauma stories throughout the text with trigger warnings. And there's also a lot of different chapters where I talk about themes, mostly themes of things that I've seen throughout my military mental health career, throughout my career with the VA, and even just sharing personal tidbits of myself here and there. But I was trying to encompass as much military trauma as possible. I tried to have something that's relatable to almost every vet, at least that's experienced trauma. Right. And then there's also self-interventions, resources toward the back of the book, even some Q&A, common questions I've gotten and me answering it. So there's a lot of everything in this book.
You mentioned resources. What kind of alternative therapies have you encountered that you think help with things like this? So like equine therapy,
I was just
yoga,
thinking that.
Stuff like that. What kinds of things do you list in your book that people could try and could help them?
Well, with the resource section, I'm going more into what different types of organizations to go to if you're struggling. While there's another portion called self-interventions, where I'm talking specifically about things that clients have told me that have helped with specific symptoms that are common with PTSD. So there's like a whole list of things. But again, I'm also stressing to people, the book is not a replacement for therapy.
Right.
and really self-monitor when you're trying anything. And, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There's no one size fits all, of course. So that's kind of what that's about with the self-interventions and resources. But it's funny you mentioned yoga and equine therapy. And even like under the model of a readjustment counselor, we really believed in holistic approaches as well. We believed in that was the big distinguisher between VA and vet center, is that VA is forced to use what we call an evidence-based treatment model, such as CBT, PE, or EMDR, which has become popular. But in the vet center, you instead do what we call a focus area. So if the vet comes in and the focus area is benefits, it's benefits. If it's homelessness, it's homelessness. If it's PTSD, it's PTSD. If it's basic needs, it's basic needs. And we take on that approach where, we meet the client where they're at. They're not ready to discuss the trauma. That's okay. And we'll go into like a different realm with them. And I love that about the vet center, that it gave me more flexibility as a clinician.
Right. Can we just backtrack a little bit? Can you explain what those acronyms are? You said CBT and something else. Can you explain what those are what those mean for our audience?
Sure. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, and PE is prolonged exposure therapy. So the cognitive behavioral is very much, a lot of people, this is a very popular one, and sometimes I've used it, but it has a lot to do with thoughts, feelings, and reactions, and pausing, and really deeply evaluating your thoughts before like an emotional behavior comes out after it. And then prolonged exposure was more about slowly exposing the client to what they fear in order to desensitize them over time. And then EMDR, quite honestly, I don't remember what that stands for. Well, what I don't feel so bad.
I said it was for my audience. Actually, audience, that was for me because I didn't know what any of that meant.
What I do know is they have you look at lights while you're talking about your trauma, and there's some neurological factors involved in that. That's what I know so far. I never did use it myself. Yeah, I never got trained in it. Yeah.
That sounds very interesting. I've heard amazing stories of equine therapy and how it's helped them. But again, it's not a one size fits all. Nothing is. People talk about, oh, do yoga, and people do yoga and go, ew, I don't like it. But then they find something else. You know what I mean? So, just because one doesn't work doesn't mean something else won't work. So keep trying to find something that actually works for you. And it's not the one and done. I did the first one, it didn't work, I'm done. Keep finding that thing that's going to help you. So last but not least, you are right now a research assistant for the Henry M. Jackson Foundation for the Advancement of Military Medicine. Now, I have to tell you and the audience, I had no idea that this even existed. So please tell us what the foundation is for, what it's about, and we can kind of go from there because I'm fascinated by this.
Sure. So what I know so far, and I got really lucky getting this job. It was actually a former coworker in the Air Force that referred me for it. But she knew I wanted to switch from clinical to research. So it's a nonprofit, and they are partnered with the DoD to help do a lot of these research projects. And there's many different ones, but specifically, I'm working with the suicide prevention team, doing coding and entering data for Air Force 2020 suicides. Very in depth, a lot of detail, and a lot of looking at the themes of what led to these suicides in order to create more preventative type of methods in the future.
Right. So it's more data-based than dealing with actual people. I mean, you are dealing with people because of the numbers, but it's more research and data-based. But it sounds like it's important work. I mean, seriously, because we just need to stop. We just need to stop this. The things that are happening to people is just It's not good. It's just not. And we need to find a way to help. Last but not least, let's talk about where we can buy your book.
The easiest way is going on my website, elisaescalante.com. Very simple. And there's links to Amazon and Barnes on it. It goes directly to the book. And it's also, on my Instagram, Elisa Esca, you can find the link to the website. And, it's there. It launched July 6th. So people have been, thank you so much. People have been getting the book. They've been sending me pictures. I tell people I welcome feedback anytime. So if there's anything that you read that stands out that you want to comment on, you can DM me. And I love the feedback that I've been getting so far. And I'm glad that it's helping people.
Right. I think when you do anything from your heart, when something's been sitting on your heart for so long and you finally get the opportunity and the chance to put it out there, it's not wrong. You know what I mean? It's from your heart. And when people read it, they understand that it's from your heart and it's helping people. How can it be bad? You know what I mean? It's not just, oh yeah, I'm going to write this book. And I hear people on Clubhouse, oh, I'm a best-selling author and I'm this and I'm that, and I'm like, okay, great. But I want to know what your book is about. So, it sounds as if your book is something that even I could read and enjoy and get something out of it. You know what I mean? It's not this clinical, what was the word you called it?
Psychobabble.
Psychobabble. You're like, okay, I've looked up way too many words and I'm only on page 1. So this is going to be really hard to read.
That's the thing. Cause even as much as I love mental health, like I'm a mental health nerd, obviously I went to school for it, but as much as I love it, I have a hard time getting through those texts. So, I could just imagine someone that's not as into the field as I am, so I didn't want to do anything like that.
Right. So what would you say to someone if they're on the fence about getting your book? What would you say to them to say, look, buy my book because fill in the blank?
Because you were either a veteran or married to a veteran or a family member of a veteran, or a veteran, you work with a veteran, there's some tie in relation, or you are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and that is in this book. And we all know by now, I hope we all know by now, that you don't have to go to a combat zone to get PTSD,
right,
or moral injuries, or be struggling with a transition. So,
right.
Whether you're the veteran or the veteran, this is going to open your eyes and it's going to give you more info. It's going to answer some questions that you probably have in the back of your mind. And again, it's going to be very relatable.
Right. Is this a book that, say someone who's never been in the military, they're civilian, maybe they've had people in their family that's been military, would they be able to get something out of this book too, even though they've never served?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're finally starting to recognize just how much family is impacted by a military member's service. For example, New York City opened a nonprofit called the Cohen Military Family Clinic, and it's specialized in military families. And I referred a lot of clients there that needed marital therapy or therapy for their children. Because it's so needed. Those traumas from military service truly do trickle into the household. And what we find with family members is they're very confused. They're not doing what the military member's doing. They're not seeing the traumas for themselves, but they're seeing the symptoms. And there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of worry and anxiety, right, and uncertainty of, what can I ask, and what do I say to make it better? A lot of guilt with that.
Wow, that's good to know. So I'm going to definitely, get your book because I'm very interested now in seeing and reading and the fact that I got to meet you. Okay, not meet you, but meet you on Zoom. So it's all good. Elisa, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your book and your service and how you help veterans and with the research that you're doing, et cetera, because I think it's amazing what you're doing. Any last parting words before we go?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And also thank you for your service and what you're doing to put important information out there for the veteran community and everyone else.
Thank you. What I do here is getting that information out to people because there's so much I don't know. And so when I don't know, I try to figure out how many other people out there that don't know. And so that's what I want people out there to know about your book. And, this podcast is from my heart. This is what I want to do. And this is what I've been doing it's almost been a year now. I can't believe it.
Congrats.
So I'm having fun, but I'm also learning so much from other people. So I hope you got to know a little bit about Elisa and about her book. Go to Amazon, go to her website, buy her book and read it and let her know your thoughts on it and comments. So in the meantime, please be safe, take care of each other, and we'll see you again soon.